At this point, you might think I've made enough videos about Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex, but there's a lot of individual topics to discuss that relate to them. It's not just one single issue. In this video, I want to discuss one of these branching topics that so many people just don't seem to get, and it's important for people to understand. Many people believe that both the Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex stories contain parallels to characters in the games, giving additional hints towards characterization, identities, and events to help guide us towards the right answers. One of the most common examples of people claiming this nowadays is with Edwin, and how he supposedly parallels Henry, and many claim that this prevents the Tales from the Pizzaplex books from being in the games. Now, I don't care whether you believe Tales or Frights or both or neither are in the games, but what people need to understand is that something being a parallel does not mean that they have to be in an alternate universe. First of all, Edwin and Henry coexist. This isn't something that's up for debate. I said this in my recent video about the FNaF timeline's cohesiveness, but whether Tales is in the game's timeline or not, we know for a fact due to the burnt down pizza place that the events of FNaF 6 did happen in the books. Some argue that it just happened differently, but there's no reason to believe that. As I mentioned in that video, FNaF 6 also happened in Fazbear Frights, and the Ultimate Guide, while not the greatest source of information as it does get some things wrong, does claim the epilogues follow FNaF 6. Not just a similar event, it literally name drops the game. With Frailty, the Tales and Frights stories seem to be tied together, meaning FNaF 6 and the exact events of the game did happen in the Tales timeline. FNaF 6 happening means that Henry does exist in the Tales universe, and it's not like Edwin could just be the stand-in for Henry because HRY223 exists. Not to mention, Henry dies in FNaF 6, and Edwin is still alive during the Pizzaplex era after FNaF 6. Also, although Edwin does build animatronics for Fazbear Entertainment, that does not mean he takes Henry's role, as Henry not only built the animatronics, but he designed them, meaning Edwin could have just been making more of them. Hell, a Chica animatronic was apparently the 18th animatronic Edwin was tasked with building, and if this was the first Chica ever, you'd think that it would have been a lot sooner. Also, Henry and William were co-founders of Fazbear Entertainment, while Edwin had his robotics business that was bought out by Fazbear Entertainment after it was already established. Not the same role at all. Even if Edwin was meant to parallel Henry, they still coexist, and Edwin does not replace Henry in any way. This also goes for any supposed parallel in any Tales or Frights story. Alec, Pete, Noel, it doesn't matter if you think they parallel Mike. They do not replace Mike. They just might be allusions to Mike's story, but Mike still exists within the Frights timeline regardless. But that's not all. There's already numerous parallels within the FNaF games themselves. Some are stronger than others, but are still very notable. For example, William Afton with the Mimic and Vanny. The Mimic and Vanny are basically the replacements for Afton with the modern FNaF story, but there's certain things about them that seem to very much parallel Afton himself. For one, Afton in FNaF 3 survived a fire. The Mimic in the Tales books was said to have survived a fire. You could argue that if Tales isn't in the games, they aren't within the same universe, but as I just explained, the FNaF games events happened in Tales, so Afton survived a fire regardless. In the case of Vanny, she's obviously trying to model herself based on Afton, wearing a rabbit costume, becoming a security guard to benefit her own goals, killing people, and stuff like that. The Glamrocks are also security devices, which also parallels the toy animatronics from FNaF 2. Speaking of Vanessa being a security guard, this also brings me to the next one, Vanessa with Mike. It's implied that since Sister Location is after the events of FNaF 1, Mike was still working with Afton during the events of FNaF 1 and 2. With this in mind, it's safe to assume Mike went and worked as a Freddy security guard to help Afton, not knowing that he was the murderer, but knowing that he was trying to help his dad in some way. Similarly, Vanessa went and worked as a Freddy security guard as well to help Glitchtrap, who is of course the stand-in for Afton. Perhaps the best example of parallels existing within the same universe is with the daycare attendant, a super clear parallel to Vanny. Sun is the Vanessa side, not evil and just trying to help, but also being aware of their darker half and worrying for people's safety at the hands of said darker half. Meanwhile, Moon is the darker half, of course, and represents Vanny, Vanessa's dark side. What's more is that in Ruin, we learn that Princess Quest was completed, setting Vanessa free of Vanny and Glitchtrap's control, and the princess of Princess Quest seems to be Cassidy. Meanwhile, within Ruin, Cassie gets rid of the darker half of the daycare attendant, making Eclipse, who is basically just Sun in terms of personality. Point is, in Ruin, the daycare attendant and Vanessa, two characters with evil split personalities, are freed of those split personalities, one being saved by Cassidy and the other being saved by Cassie, two very similar names. This to me is such a clear parallel between the two, and I think it's pretty much undeniable. But there's still more. For instance, the bite victim based on FNaF World was partially responsible for the Happiest Day minigame being set up, and he also has black and white stripes and tears. On the other hand, the puppet based on FNaF 3 was also partially responsible for the Happiest Day minigame being set up, and she has black and white stripes and also tears. There's also Gregory and the bite victim, who don't really have any personality similarities, but also have parallels between them for some reason. Both wear shorts and a t-shirt with 2 stripes, both wear band-aids on their knees, both are called Broken by a Freddy character, and one is bitten by a yellow Freddy while the other bites a yellow Freddy. I don't know if there's any specific reason for these parallels, but they're definitely there, whatever the reason is. 2 more. First, The Immortal and the Restless shows a very clear parallel between Vlad, Clara and their baby, and William, Mrs. Afton, and Michael, respectively. I don't think I need to touch too much on that, considering the dad and the son have the same skin color, mirroring Mike and William both being purple guys, and supposedly being mistaken for each other. Mike says as much about the fun times in the Golden Freddy mode cutscene of Sister Location. So yeah, like I said, I don't think I need to touch too much on that. Although I guess I kinda just did. Speaking of the fun times, that is actually where the final parallel comes in, and it's another big one. The entire plot of Sister Location is the fun times wanting to escape Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, and to do so, they use Michael Afton's body. This is later paralleled when Glitchtrap is trapped inside the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience, wanting to escape, and to do so, using Vanessa's body. Both Ennard and Glitchtrap use human bodies in order to escape where they're trapped. It's pretty cut and dry. I think I've made it clear throughout this video that just because something is a parallel does not mean it must belong to an alternate universe. It can, but it doesn't have to. Hell, Charlie in the books is very much a parallel to Michael from the games, but they're separate universes, and Charlie exists in the games as well. But that doesn't mean every parallel has to be that way. Some people don't believe parallels are in the Frights and Tales books regardless because they're in the games anyway, and others think Frights and Tales aren't in the games because there's parallels. Both of these opinions are fundamentally flawed. You don't have to believe parallels exist, and you don't have to believe the short story books are in the games, but everyone needs to understand that it doesn't have to just be one or the other. It doesn't have to be black and white. In reality, it could just be one big gray area, and honestly, I think that works better. And with that knowledge, I think these debates can be handled much better. Will they? Probably not, but they should. But that's just my take, so what do you guys think? Do you agree? Let me know in the comments, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you all in the next video. The reason I wanted to make this video now is because my next 2 theory videos will be all about Fazbear Frights, and I just know that if I don't make this video, people are gonna yell at me. Some for thinking the Fright stories are in the games, and some for thinking parallels exist. I'll definitely still get those comments, but if I do, they can always watch this video. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See ya!